Jeweled Lotus is banned. Mana Crypt is banned. Fast Mana is a scourge on the format. That's right, we're talking about Oathbreaker, folks. Hey, me from the future here. So I made the beginning part of this video on Sunday, and then obviously the rules committee disbanded, Wizards took over, Wizards had that stream, they talked about brackets, all that jazz. I have feelings about EDH. If you really care about what I feel or what I think, you can check out my Instagram. I've kind of put my thoughts there, but like generally I think the bans are good. Generally, I think the brackets are bad. I think they're useless because I don't know who they help, but that's kind of my vibe right now. But I have noticed that a lot of people are kind of getting disillusioned with EDH, just kind of getting cold on it. So all the more reason, if you are getting disillusioned on EDH, you should come and play Oathbreaker. So let's jump into this and see what we did here. But seriously, let's talk about Oathbreaker because this is my favorite format, and if you are feeling pretty slighted about EDH and pretty not excited to play anymore, come play with me. Come play Oathbreaker. It's fantastic. It's great. It's a really good format. So one of the things I've done is I have built a battle box. I have built 4 decks, and I am going to show them. Let's do it. Why not just do it right now? What am I doing? I'm looking at myself. Decks. Let's do it. Oathbreaker. I have built a battle box and I have built 4 decks. Ignore this one down here. And I have made a play group with, it's a group of dads in my area. I am a dad. And it's some folks that their kids go to the same school that my kids go to, and one of them's a friend and such. They hadn't played for a little while, but now we're back in it, and I got them into it, and we were playing Oathbreaker because I personally believe this is the best format to on-ramp people, to get people into the game. You don't get a lot of non-games in Oathbreaker. Everyone is always doing something. There's very few times where it feels like you did nothing, unless you get like mana screwed, but you just got to build your decks a little bit smarter so that doesn't happen, and just be like really kind of friendly with mulligans in that case. But the mulligan rule's the same as commander, so you should be building a deck that should be able to like not mana screw itself on a consistent basis. So I built 4 decks. I built 4 decks that are high power. They're not like top tier, but they're high powers that like you can do things, and they're big and they're strong and they're interactive. Let's go through them real fast just to like quickly go through them. I had a long form video where I went through all of these, but whatever. This is probably the best one, the Arlene Cord deck. It's Arlene Cord and Wind Swift Slice. It's basically a fight spell. I thought about running like Tail Swipe, but this is actually, you get like elves if you do this, which is kind of a benefit, and it just seemed kind of like a big thing. This is just gruel aggro. Like, this is just like super amazing. Arlene Cord is, in my opinion, probably one of the best options for your Oathbreaker in this format if you're not going like combo, which I could talk about that at another time, but combo doesn't really exist in this format the way it did a couple of years ago. And if anyone who tells you that they've broken this format, they haven't played it in the last like year, because this format has shifted because they have printed cards that have forced it to shift. So it's just a bunch of like aggro creatures, bunch of removal. Your goal is just like overrun people. There are just some like ridiculous cards in here, like Minsk and Boo and Polygon. Like, this card is stupid. Scurrious Squirrels. Like, there's this crazy stuff. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever played with this card, but Watchful Ratstag is absolutely ridiculous, and this thing single-handedly wins games. Like, it looks innocuous when you first look at it. You're like, oh, it's just a deer that's gonna make, it's like a Scoot Swarm. This is way better than Scoot Swarm for just like mid-range tempo. Like, crazy stuff happens here. So that was one of the decks. One of the other decks is Nahiri with the signature spell being Guthrie Writes History. So this is pretty awesome. This is just a bunch of like things with ETBs. This one is super cool. All these are on my Moxfield. I'll link that. So if you want to check it out, you can like click on my Moxfield and do it. We're gonna speed this up real fast just to get through. This is the deck that I'm iffiest on, but I've made some big changes to, so the next time I play, I think it's going to be a little bit better. It's Kaido. It tries to be a little bit more of a controlling deck, but obviously that's a little difficult in a format that is super aggressive and combat-centric, when you can't just sit there and you can just like, I'm just going to take a bunch of hits, and then I'm going to like play a bunch of counter spells and try to win. Like, doesn't super work great that way. Like, obviously you could do like Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, but like, you got to find it, and that's not what I want to do with this. Not with this group of guys. That's not what we want to do. Like, one could argue that that would be the build you want to go with this, where you like literally run Demonic Consultation as your signature spell, and then you're just running a bunch of tutors and such. Whatever. Build it if you want to try it, but I don't think it's going to work super good because people are going to see that, and they're not going to let you ever cast it. And then the last one is Sarkon Fireblood with Ensnared by the Mara. Here is a great example. This is a card that you have probably never heard of if you don't play Oathbreaker. Unless you really, 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 really love the Doctor Who set. But this card's amazing. This card is probably one of the in the top 10 cards in this format, simply because it is more aggressive towards life totals than a lot of other things. So when you have 40 life, this card isn't that big of a deal. You're like, whatever, I'll just take the damage. You never take the damage in a 20 life format, because you could lose 6, 8, 10, 12. I've seen people lose to this, like literally, like this gets cast and they lose. And then the other big thing this deck wants to do is it wants to like fork things. So it's using Starcon to play a bunch of dragons to kind of go for the combat aggressive route. But then the second thing that it's trying to do is it is trying to duplicate the spell with like Twin Fireball Flare of duplication and stuff like that. There's also, I don't know, there's something else in there that it can like double the spell, whatever. This deck is super great. This deck is super fun. But what I've noticed, even in just having played this like a handful of times, I took this to the Command Fest LA also, and it was super great. But it does start to get a little bit stale, because with 4 decks, it's always the same 4 decks. And yes, the pilot will change how the deck goes a little bit, but at the end of the day, the deck's going to do what the deck wants to do, especially like in Oathbreaker, because you want to get your Planeswalker down, and then you want to like resolve your signature spell. Like that's just the way the format is. So the play patterns are pretty similar. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a 5th deck to this, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build this 5th deck right here in this video. Because if you think about it, 4 to the 4th power, or 4, if you have 4 decks, there's basically 16 different combinations that can happen. If you add in a 5th deck, now there's 64 different combinations that can happen, because everyone can choose a different deck. And this also lets it where the last person isn't stuck choosing whatever deck is last. They'll still have an option of 1 of 2 decks, as opposed to just like, I'm just going to pick the last deck. So here we get this. We're going to go for Vraska, Golgari Queen with Unnatural Restoration to do proliferate stuff. So that's my idea. I'm going to build a 5th deck here, and we're going to do it live right here, and I'm going to kind of talk about the format a little bit and what I'm doing here, and to see if I can kind of build a little bit of excitement for this. If you're going to MagicCon Vegas in a couple weeks, depending on when I get this video out, the folks who run the format, oversee the format, I'm not totally sure what you want to say, but Magic Kids, they're going to have a booth there, and they're running Oathbreaker there the whole time. So if you want to learn the format, you can go there. If you want to play the format, I've heard that it's just like open play there. I cannot make it, unfortunately, otherwise I would 100% be there with my battle box the whole time. That'd literally be, I would just camp there and do that the whole time. But I can't make it, so it's going to be up to you guys to go there and learn and play the format. But if you ever see me anywhere, I'm going to have this with me, and I'm going to play it. So let's build this deck. Let's build this deck. Okay, we got Vraska, Unnatural Restoration. What we care about here is the proliferate, because with Vraska, compared to the other ones, this deck, we want to hit the ultimate. That -9 is basically like wins the game. It's not as like wins the game as Big Dragon Boy. Nicol Bolas. There's a Nicol Bolas deck that wins the game, where you run Nicol Bolas and the Elder Spell. But once again, that's a combo deck, and combos don't hold up very good because this format's gotten aggressive. So we're going to try to proliferate, see if we can get her up to her ultimate. Obviously, her +2 is fantastic, so we're going to obviously lean super heavily into that. So play things that we're going to want to sacrifice to then keep doing that +2, and then use proliferate to get her there. So if we can go from 4 to 6, proliferate gets you to 8, and then next turn to 10, you know what I mean? Like, hopefully within like 2 or 3 turns, like, she's hitting that ultimate, and then we're kind of just like knocking people out. So first thing we want to do is we need to ramp into her. Like, you know, it's still a multiplayer format. We still need to ramp. So let's get our ramp package in here. So we're going to go Bird to Paradise. Change tags. I can't use manage. Wait. I can't use tags I've used previously? Okay, we're going to just say ramp. Enable tags? Oh, I think that was the reason why that was a problem. Okay. Delight of Halfling. Super fantastic in this format because it lets you obviously get, yeah, there we go. Llanowar Elves, just all the classics here, all the classics here. And we specifically want creatures because we want things that we can sack to her, and then we're gonna have a sub-theme of just kind of like graveyard shenanigans because it's a Golgari, so that's what you do. Speaking of which, secure a Tribe Elder. I'm gonna go Gilded Goose because having the food token is also something you can sack to Vraska, which seems super fantastic, and food's never a bad idea. Add that to ramp. Elves of Deep Shadow? Probably want Elves of Deep Shadow in here. $5? Seriously? Jeez. We'll add it, but I don't know if I'm going to buy that for this deck, to be totally honest. Like, I feel like Deathrite Shaman is a cheaper card than Elves of Deep Shadow. Is that right? It totally is. What? Okay, Deathrite Shaman. Let's get this bad boy in here. Not as strong, and obviously like a super duper duper high powered version of this, it would be super strong because I'm going to be running a ton of fetch lands. I'm not running as many fetch lands because I built all these decks myself, so I didn't want to drop, you know, $1,000 in fetch lands for all these decks. So each deck has like 1 or 2 fetch lands, but they should all probably have like 3 or 4. But so be it. It's still Deathrite Shaman. It's still pretty fantastic. And also note that black one hits each opponent, so it's still pretty fantastic in this format. So that's pretty good because 2 life actually matters. This is kind of ramp, but it's now we're getting a little bit iffy. We're probably gonna run a couple of the classics like Rampant Growth also. We also have the Signet. Yeah, we probably want Rampant Growth. Or 3 visits. Let's do 3 visits. 3 visits. Because we want that forest. That forest matters. Which one's cheaper? 3 visits or Nature's Lore? Nature's Lore's gotta be cheaper, right? I mean, not by much. Tag. The Sylvan Ranger is great because it puts it, you play her, and then you can sack her to Vraska, and then it's another creature in the graveyard. So, okay, I mean, we have 10 ramp spells. That seems pretty good. There's another artifact that we might want to do when it comes in and you search for a basic and puts into play. And then when you sack it, it does the same thing. That might actually be really good, but let's kind of see about that. All right. Next thing, I want to build like a sack package for Vraska. Things that we want to play and then sack. One of the great things, and I always like this, is Rancor. I'm going to call this just like Vraska fodder. I'm going to make a tag here specifically to this deck. Vraska fodder, Tithing Blade, where everyone has to sacrifice. That is really good Vraska fodder. Because that's what we want to do. We want to play stuff and then we want to sack and then we want to have it like where it's got to go. It's got to go up. What's the one that lets you? What is it? Hopeless Nightmare? Is that the one that everyone exiles a card from their hand? Hopeless Nightmare. I think that's the one, right? Yeah. Each opponent and loses 2 life. Wow, this is way better than I thought it was. Vraska fodder. That seems super fantastic. There's a couple more I want here. What else was it? It was... Ooh, what's the new one? Nowhere... Is it called Nowhere to Run? That when it comes in, it lets you hit... Eliminate a creature? Yeah, that's kind of a good idea. Vraska fodder. There's 2 more that I was thinking of. I'm going to have to look them up in a second and see what they were. There's the cornucopia thing that when it comes in, it searches for a land and then you can sacrifice it and then it does that. But there's something else here that I'm just like, what is it? Okay, let's jump to like a second theme here, which is the proliferate thing. So let's do things that proliferate. So let's get some proliferate going on here. We want to do Bloated Contaminator, because that guy's big. Bloated Contaminator. So we're going to put this under Change Tags. Proliferate. Proliferate. We should just do this all caps. Keep it consistent. This is my favorite deck building website. I know other people use other ones, but man, this one is really good. Okay, here's one that you probably don't know. It's called Park Heights Maverick. That's it, right? Yeah, this guy proliferates also, and he has this weird, like, can't be blocked ability. This is obviously, I really like this one. We're gonna add this guy in here. Proliferate. The classic, especially since we're running things that are getting us extra lands, Evolution Sage, right? That's the one that, yep. That's gonna proliferate. That seems really good. That seems good. What else proliferates in Golgari? I feel like there must be something else. There's the dude who you can like sacrifice him and he proliferates. To Scryfall. Let's look this up real fast. get our colors right. It is Canker Bloom. That's what I was thinking of. Canker Bloom might go in here. This guy's interesting also. Contagious Borak. He's kind of interesting in this. Is there anything else I wasn't thinking of? Parkhouse Maverick. I mean, this guy is not a terrible idea. Smell Fear was interesting in the sense that you can, it's a fight spell, and you then proliferate. Like, that's kind of cool, actually. We might run that. This is obviously our signature spell. That's why we're running it. I mean, Vraska, yeah. Yawgmoth's a maybe. Yawgmoth is a maybe. Like, we can sack stuff, we can draw stuff. Like, it's pretty cool. He has prediction from humans. He's definitely a maybe. I don't like Sword of Truth and Justice, so that feels weak. Honestly, I kind of like Staff of Completion a little bit better, to be totally honest. That may have been it. That, like, I'm not sure I was thinking of anything like maybe Canker Bloom, just because it's like replayable and it's a 3/2. Like, it's not a bad creature by any means. We'll add Canker Bloom, but he might be in the chopping block. And the most important thing, sorry, we're totally forgetting something super important here, and that is we want to run, how do you spell Vivian? There we go, Vivian's Talent. So this is another way that we're going to be able to win. So this is a weird proliferate because ignore this +1. Like, it's still cool and you still probably want to do it, but honestly you're going to want to be using Vraska's +2. But whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under control, put a loyalty counter on Enchanted Planeswalker. So that's not really, it's not proliferate, but honestly in a weird way it's kind of better because you can just do it for every time you play a creature. I guess not better, it's not the right word. You're able to use it more often. So Vivian's Talent is an absolute, like, that's kind of our secondary win here. Yeah, that seems good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna say win con. So we're gonna put this, like, we're gonna be able to win by doing other things, but this is gonna be like a really good way to win. Okay, proliferate. All right, let's get some just big beaters in this deck here. We kind of talked about it before in that other deck, so let's add him in here, and that's Polygoyf. The card is amazing. It's not called Polygoyf. If I could spell it, it would be called Polygoyf. Polygoyf. Seriously, that's not the name of that card. It's not called Polygoyf. The one that has Myriad? It's got Myriad? It's a Goyf? Polygoyf. Do I not know how to spell? Polygoyf. 49 cents for a card that's, in a weird way, technically better than Tarmogoyf. Poor guy. Poor dude. Speaking of cards that there should have been a trade-in for, he just got, unfortunately, just like put out. Glissa. Glissa's a definite. Glissa, it's just Glissa Sunslayer, right? This is the good one? Where'd she go? Yeah, for sure. She's amazing. Because note her ability to remove counters gets rid of Planeswalker, so she seems super good in this deck. Boy, we only have 23 cards in our main deck so far. What else do we want for big old threats in here? Like, I've held off on like pushing these decks too far, but boy, this might be the deck that really wants Questing Beast. Questing Beast seems really good in here. Like, just the ability to like come in and like hit like a ton of bricks. Oh, this is gonna be a fun of card that I stumbled across. It's called Communal Brewing. It's in the like Mrs. What's it called? Feather Flower, whatever her name is. This is a card that's a really good example of what I was talking about before. There's been this active movement in EDH to put cards in the like commander specific like precons, those commander specific decks that are pushing combat, that are making combat matter a little bit more. Like this card is going to give all your future creatures that you play +4/+4. That is amazing for 3 mana. Like, sure, everyone else got to draw a card, but that doesn't super matter. And then if you're able to like proliferate this, so everyone's getting like +5/+5, so suddenly even just like Alana or Elf is going to be absolutely amazing because it's going to be like a 5/5. Or like like Polygoyf, like all these creatures, any creature, it doesn't even matter what it is. Birds of Paradise, like for 1 mana, it's just going to come in. And in Oathbreaker, it's changing this format because of that, because it's a format where combat actually matters. So when you're getting these cards like Communal Brewing, let's take a look at a couple more. Star Athlete, this one came out recently. This dude is fantastic because he's able to deal this extra 5 damage. So when he's attacking, he's kind of attacking for 8. Like, because if you have 20 life, you're not going to pay that 5 life. Like, people are going to sacrifice their thing, or they will, and then he's a weird removal spell that's destroying something every turn. This card is fantastic. Another one is, and this is a real good example of it just being better in Oathbreaker, Nettling Nuisance. Every time you have a fairy connect with an opponent, it crits a 4/2 pirate that's goated, and it can't block. Like, you're just creating mayhem on the board that's gonna just like put a timer on the board that's gonna shrink it like super duper duper fast. Like, the games can't last long if this guy's on the board and is allowed to live. Like, he's a 3/1, so he's not terribly difficult to deal with, but he still has to be dealt with. Like, he just has to be dealt with. I think Polygoyf is just another good example. Like, these creatures with Myriad, where it's like they're coming in and they're attacking and then they're hitting everyone. Like, another good one. Scurry of Squirrels. This one has Myriad. And then, like, when it deals combat damage, you can put a counter on things. Like, this is just super combat centric. It's a 2/2 that then, when it attacks, it's gonna have 2/2/2s attacking someone else. So hold on, wait. You're having 2 power and then 3 opponents that are getting 4, 12. This is 14 power for 3 mana in reality. That's what this is like, once again, like, it can be dealt with and it's not terribly difficult to deal with, but it still needs to be dealt with. Because if you don't deal with it and these connect, you're going to put these counters on, like, the main one or something that's even scarier, and then the game's just going to run away. Like, that's the same thing with that Radstag. Radstag's the exact same thing. Like, all you got to do is just play creatures, and this creature just, like, just gets enormously big. It's wild. So that's something that I've been noticing, and that's what I was talking about with combo decks, where it's like, the Nicol Bolas Elder Spell deck, that deck doesn't hold up anymore. The one that everyone always likes is, like, Narset Wheel, or Narset, Wheel, whatever. What's the blue wheel? I can't think of what it is, but there's a wheel card, Narset Wheel, and then that ends the game. Well, it doesn't end the game because you're never gonna get there because someone's gonna run you over because they turn dude like Star Athlete or like a Polygoyf, and then all of a sudden, like, no one is safe. Like, you know what I mean? You go like land spell, like, it's not that difficult for Polygoyf because it's everyone's graveyard, like, in all graveyards, so it's not difficult for this thing to, like, you go turn 1 fetch bird, turn 2 Polygoyf, someone played an instant, someone played a sorcery, someone attacked an artifact, and this dude's swinging at everyone for like 5 or 6 damage on turn 3, or swinging at someone's planeswalker. Like, you can't protect your planeswalker, this dude's gonna get run over. Unless you have something like a Gliss of Sun Slayer out there to protect it. So that's part of it. It's like, you need to be able to, like, protect your planeswalker and, like, deal with things. So the format's super fun and it's a blast, and that's kind of where we're at. Alright, let's get back to building this deck though. I was making a comment a second ago about how we're only at 25 cards. We're only at 25 cards because we have no lands in our deck here. So, just for the sake of keeping our numbers here, we're going to do this. I will figure out the land later, and if you want to actually see what the mana base is, like, feel free to come back and check it. But for right now, we're just going to do I'm gonna call this threats. Untagged lands. We're gonna go add more and add 20, 21. I mean, that should be fine. We'll have some MDFCs in here, for sure. We might want 22 lands. Let's see. We'll add like 1 more. 22 lands. As I said, we'll figure out the actual mana base later. It's gonna be all the classic stuff. You know what I mean. Like, I'm not gonna. There's nothing that I can think of that's going to be super crazy in this deck that we're going to run that you're going to be like, oh my god, I can't believe he's running that land. Like, Shifting Woodlands is probably going to be, like, the most bizarre card that you're going to see here. And even that might be, like, kind of iffy. Everything else is going to be like, we just need to have black and green mana. Like, that's all we care about. Like, Cradle is legal in this format, so maybe a proxy in a Cradle. Let's see. Let's see how good this deck winds up being, and then we'll kind of go from there. So now we're somewhere. 47 cards. Now we're cooking. Now all we need is 13 more cards. All right. A couple other things I was missing. in terms of my fodder package. Trial of Ambition. It's an enchantment. When it comes into play, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Absolutely amazing. Great. Add it. This is in the Nebraska fodder. There's also the dude who, when it comes in and it costs 2 and it lets you sacrifice a creature. What is that guy? You know what I'm talking about. He was from Modern Horizons 3. He was super good. It was black. Enters each player sacrifice creature. It's actually non-token creature, which is relevant, but this should get us the card. There it is, a Cursed Marauder. Let's get this guy in here. And that's going to spark us into my next discussion about this format. I kind of want to put this guy in. I don't know. We're gonna make a new one here called Removal, because we need some removal. So this is removal. Technically that's in that package there, but that's it. Okay, so this format follows the color identity issues, rules the Commander follows, and there's one that I adamantly disagree with, and in this format you can really feel it, and that is hybrid mana. So you technically, legally, can't run hybrid mana cards that aren't both colors of your commander. But note that, like, there aren't that many commanders who are more than 2 colors. Most are 1, handful are 2, and then there's a very small spattering that are like 3 or more. You have the 2 Dihadas, you have like Anamatsu, you have Jareth, which is kind of a joke. Like, that's another one, like, people ran Jareth Flash and like, haha, I broke the format. I was like, no, you didn't. You didn't break the format. It ain't gonna happen. Or they run, like, Jareth and whatchamacallit, like, you're already dead, and then their plan is to run Flash. Like, no, I don't think that's gonna work so good. I don't think that's gonna work the way you want it to. So I'm adamant that, like, hybrid mana should work. These decks are decks that I'm bringing everywhere and I'm playing with them. Like, I would never play these decks outside of this battle box. Like, they would exist within this battle box. I have my own high power Oathbreaker decks that I love that are, like, even a step above these. So these would only ever be competing with each other. So no one's gonna get, like, blown away if a card's in here that, like, isn't technically legal. With that said, here she is. Oh, we're ignoring legality, my friend. The champ, Loris of the Dream Den, banned in pretty much every format. Here she is. She is here. We're gonna change this one and call it Golgari Shenanigans. This card is just absolutely fantastic. It's fantastic, and it should be playable. Hybrid mana should work in this format. You're cutting yourself off of too many cards, and you're making the format slightly less interesting. For what's no reason other than you're copying the rules directly from Commander. This one should, like, I feel this, like, if I could do anything, and honestly, what I want to do with this, if I can get more people playing, and people are playing with these hybrid mana cards, and like, hey, this is pretty cool that I could play Loris in this. If I could build some momentum to try to get the rules on this to change, if that's something I can accomplish, I would be incredibly proud of that and incredibly happy. So I'm running Lords of the Dream Den in this deck. There's another deck. Where is it? Let's go take a look real fast. Kaido. Where's the illegal card? There you go. Portal Manipulator. This card, like, this card is amazing. It's from the Clue set. You've probably never seen this card. But it lets you, like, change where all the creatures are attacking, which is amazing. There's Portal Mage, which lets you do it with 1. For 1 extra mana, it lets you do it for, like, all attacking creatures. So I put this one in here because it's blue. That's a blue card. Like, I know it's Azorius, but that is a blue card. That's what hybrid mana is. So that is in here. So we have 2 illegal cards in these decks, but you know what? I don't care. Because this is not an Orzhov card. This is a black card, or it's a white card, and this is a Golgari deck. So I should be able to play my black card in my Golgari deck. That's my opinion. That's what we're going to do. This opens up a million things now with this deck, because this entire Nebraska fodder package can be recurred with Loris. All these creatures can be recurred with Loris. Canker Bloom can be recurred with Loris. This is amazing. Loris is in the deck. Let's go with it. All right. One more thing for the Nebraska fodder, which honestly I might wind up changing my mind on in the future, but we're going to do it. Treacherous Blessing. This is the one where it comes to play, you draw 3 cards, and then it becomes the target of a spell or ability to sacrifice it, so it's draw 3 cards for 3 mana, which seems pretty good. So we're going to put this in. Golgar, no, oh, nope, we want this in Vraska fodder. This is not Golgar shenanigans, Vraska fodder. So there we go. We got some good stuff here. Okay, we got 9 cards left. We need some staples. We need some of the like cream of the crop staples here for this format. And one of those, which you may or may not know, is Mutated Cultist. This came from Modern Horizons 3. This is basically Planeswalker removal. 2 colors of the black. It's devoid. It comes to play. Remove all counters from a permanent or player. And then the next spell you cast is that much cheaper. This card is an absolute all-star in the format. So we're going to put this into removal. Another absolute all-star in this format is Sheoldred's Edict, because you can hit Planeswalkers with this. So ways that you can deal with Planeswalkers that you don't have to like, that don't cost an arm and a leg are absolutely phenomenal. So that's just like a good thing to do. We could run the Elder Spell. That's one of the cards I've kept out of these battle boxes. If you're building this deck for realsies, you would 100% run the Elder Spell on this. Like, it's like, this is the deck to run it, because you Elder Spell, and then Vraska gets up to the -9, and then it's just like, bam, like, there she is, like, you got there. I don't want to do it here. If this deck has trouble holding its own, and the guys get a little more, like, great with the format, it'll definitely go in here, but for right now, I'm going to keep the Elder Spell out, but the Elder Spell should be in this deck. I'm saying that. But let's have some more fun instead of doing things like Elder Spell. Poxwalkers. Whenever you play, it's got 3/1 Death Touch, and whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it comes into the battlefield tapped. So this is going in Golgari Shenanigans. So let's ramp up our Golgari Shenanigans. Let's get some fun stuff going in here. We want to also run the Mosswood Knights? Mosswood, the heck is the name of that card? Mosswood Knight. There you go, Dread Whispers. There you go. How much was that, boy? Where'd you go? 249. Okay. This works really good with shenanigans. It lets you draw, lets you lose life. It's got trample. It's just kind of a fun, interesting card that you can like recur and such. So we're gonna put this in Golgari Shenanigans. We want the dude who you can play from your graveyard. What is that guy? As long as you've gained life. Gained life. Cast from graveyard? He's a vampire. Here he is. Oathsworn Vampire. Yeah, as long as you've gained life, you can play him from your graveyard. So I think we put this guy in there. He seems super castable. We have things with lifelink. We have Vraska. You gain a life from this. She seems really good. Oathsworn Knight. Wrong card. It's Oathsworn Vampire. Oh, same idea. Same idea. Awesome. Change tags. Golgari Shenanigans. What else do we want in Golgari Shenanigans? Like, do we want Vengevine? Vengevine seems pretty good. Ooh, you know who we really want? I don't know if this counts as Golgari Shenanigans, but I still really like it. We want Tiny Bones. The new Tiny Bones, not the old Tiny Bones. Tiny Bones, the pickpocket. This dude seems super good because he connects and then you're able to cast something. Which is also going to trigger Poxwalkers, but it's also just like, he's a threat. And he's really good with Vraska because he has Death Touch, so people are not really going to want to block him, and if they don't really want to block him, he's going to end the game, and he's just cost 1 mana, so that seems pretty good. I'm putting him in Golgari Shenanigans. That counts as Golgari Shenanigans in my mind. White of the Reliquary. The new one, right? Yeah, Vigilance, this dude, this girl, this zombie is super fantastic. It lets you sacrifice things. It lets you, kitty. It lets you search for lands, which if we, if we have interesting lands in our lands packages, stuff like that. So change tags. Let's get her in there. I'm gonna put this under threats because she's just gonna get super cute. Another great thing that you can recur with, Loris and just like amazing things like that. Okay, boy, we're up to 58 cards here. What else do we want? Okay. Let's do a fun of. We don't have enough fun of. 494. Is that really how much this card costs? Jeez, that shocked me right there. Ebon Death Dricklich. You can play it from your graveyard. It's a 5/2. It also has flash. It also enters tapped. But the fact that you can play it from your graveyard, this seems pretty hilarious. I also like Vengevine, but I kind of like this better. You know what we need? You know what we're missing? We're missing some things to like make things cost less. Like, Honest Rustine. This dude seems amazing in here. Enter to return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Creature spells cost 1 less to go. Dude, this dude is an all-star in this deck here. I'm gonna put him in. We're gonna put him in ramp. I feel like we might need a couple more of those. We might have to make some cuts here. Well, there might be some things we're gonna have to get rid of. Treacherous Blessing. You're looking like you're on that chopping block. Canker Bloom also is on the chopping block here. Things that make creatures cost less. What is the dog? It's Cemetery Prowler? Prowler's the one, right? That makes things cost less? Yeah, I know, and he has Vigilance? Dude, this dude's awesome. Let's put this guy on ramp. Ramp. I kind of like this over. Where'd our Vraska fodder package go? Treacherous Blessing? Let's remove that. Let's delete. Remove. Nowhere to Run is also on the chopping block, to be totally honest. Because in a weird way, everything's Vraska fodder, because everything creates a permanent, and everything can be like sacked to it. Like, in a weird way, I kind of want to just keep doing stuff like that. What else makes creatures cheaper? Is there a familiar? What's the familiar? Is there a familiar that affects green and black? Like, is it the green one? I can't remember because their names are different. Red spells and whites. Black one is blue and red. Okay, neither of those help. I mean, this might be it. This might be the deck. Like, obviously there'll be changes and things are going to happen and we got to fix our, like, lands immensely. But, you know what? This is kind of it. Like, I feel like I could build this and we can run this and we can play it. Like, sure, there's a couple things I'd probably want to, like, minimize a little bit. But I feel like this gets us there. Like, I think there's a lot of fun, interesting things going on here. I think Questing Beast would be totally fine in here. I think it's a totally fine deck. We're going to be ramping a ton. We're not really ramping ourselves into anything other than maybe replaying Vraska, but that doesn't super matter because it's like once we have something like Communal Brewing out, then all of our creatures are getting bigger anyway, so it doesn't super matter in terms of that. Like, we're going to be able to deal damage. Vraska's going to be able to, like, eliminate things, so I don't know. I think I kind of like it. I think it's kind of fun. I might just call it. This might just be the deck. Like, as I said, we'll make some changes and such, but for the sake of just, like, building this in, like, half an hour or whatever, I feel pretty good about this. So, here we go. 5th deck in the battle box, ready to go. So, here's where the deck actually ended up. I went in, I got the mana, so we got the mana here. I went through my notes and I remember there's a bunch of cards that I wanted to add that I hadn't added. I showed this to the guys and they really liked it. Everyone is super excited to play this deck. So here's some interesting things that have changed here. Braid's Arisen Nightmare. This was one of my, like, I have to include this card, and then I completely forgot when I was building the deck. This card's amazing. It works. It's basically working like Vraska, except you're able to draw 3 cards and you're able to also make people lose life. This thing is amazing. She's fantastic in here. You sack something like Rancor, you sack something like a creature, like, things like that are crazy. I also added 9 Lives Familiar. Obviously this card's not out yet, but it's going to come out and it's going to be amazing. Couple other interesting things that I've added. Ooh, here we go. I had a poll on Twitter where I asked people, like, what they think about Mutate in a deck that's kind of for newer players, and we kind of all agreed it's okay. If you're doing, like, giant Mutate piles, that's probably a no-no for new players just because the rules get super wonky. But as a one-off, it's pretty fantastic. And every single creature in this deck, I think except for this guy, is a non-human. So this is pretty fantastic. The one fun rules interaction is Scurry of Squirrels, because obviously with Myriad, it sees the card as the mutated version, so it makes copies of the mutated version of it. So it would be a bunch of 6/6s. So this is actually pretty phenomenal. Spinning Dilophosaurus. This prevents things from blocking. This works really well with Proliferate. Really loved it. I wound up putting in the Vengevine. The Vengevine made sense. And then I think I don't remember what I had here, but I got Nether Trader as, like, my reanimation card. So when any creature goes to the graveyard, you can obviously pay to get this back. Since it's Shadow, it can get in for damage, which if you have Vraska's Emblem, that's going to win you the game. Anything else that was super interesting that we probably would have missed? Obviously, MDFCs, we're running 4 of them in this deck. I think they're super fantastic. Academ's Awakening, obviously with all its creatures, is amazing. This one's the iffiest one, but why not? Why wouldn't you play it? Fill the Profane is great. Revitalizing Repass, put the counter on, Indestructible, amazing, amazing, amazing. I think I went down on ramp a little bit. Like, my ramp package went down slightly. Part partially I had that dude who searched for a basic land, and then I realized that I only had 2 basic lands, so that doesn't seem super great. So I like Tower Winder better. It's got reach, it's got death touch. Ooh, we did add this Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, as a second planeswalker. So many creatures, the ability to play them up flash is amazing. And then that giving something vigilance and reach is going to be really good. Particularly in this battle box where one of the decks is a dragon deck. Like, giving these creatures reach is amazing, and vigilance in any multiplayer format is fantastic. So I think that's all the new stuff that I changed. As I said, land bases here, it's basically anything that can tap for 2 colors, and then a couple of interesting ones like Phyrexian Tower and Witch's Cottage. So if we're running an Urborg Witch's Cottage that can get us a creature, it seems kind of fun. You can go search for it. Why do the Reliquary can search. Your fetch lands can search for it, and then Shifting Woodland. Everything else is pretty basic. And a Dryad Arbor, because why not if you can put things back in your hand. Oh, I'm not sure if this was in the last build, but Oversold Cemetery. I really like this. I wish there was something better. I kept looking for like a Planeswalker, but the only Planeswalker is the Liliana that costs 5 that has a plus that returns a creature. And that just seems super expensive. Like, obviously playing this on turn 2 is useless because they're not going to be there. But committing to 5 mana seems crazy to be able to do this effect repeatedly. And then she's also open to being attacked and removed in a format where, like, removing people's Planeswalker is usually built into everyone's deck. So Oversoul Cemetery seems better. It's an enchantment. It sticks around. Loris can replay it. Because obviously, as I said, we're bending the hybrid mana rules for this. I reached out to the organization that manages the format, and I'm trying to get this conversation going, because I think, particularly now with what's going on with EDH, now is the time to do something that separates this format from that format. And the slam dunk in my mind is just like change the rules on hybrid mana. So many people want this, like the majority of people want hybrid mana to work properly in EDH, that if the Oathbreaker team came out and said, hey, we're going to adjust the rules so that hybrid mana works properly in Oathbreaker, I think that might be the push that gets a handful of people to start playing that, and that format, it could use a boost. Like, it could use a kick right now. So I think that would do it, especially with MagicCon Vegas coming up. Like, I don't know. That, just me thinking out loud. If I was in charge, I would do it immediately, but I am not in charge, so I can't do that. But I am in charge of this battle box, so I can do it, and I will do it. So here it is. Yeah, I think that's it. So here's what the deck is. As I said, I showed the boys. They really liked it. This is going to be amazing. Everyone is excited to play this one and stop playing the Kaido deck. I will still play the Kaido deck. I've made some additions to it that I think are great, but this is much more like beginner player friendly. Like, you play a big creature, you swing, you get your Vengefine out from the graveyard. Like, everyone loves graveyard shenanigans, and there's enough graveyard hate in the other decks that this deck shouldn't be able to just like run away with the game. So this feels well balanced. Don't look at that price. That's preposterous. Most of these cards I can get for a quarter of this price, so that's way out of whack. It's really the lands that are pulling this up, so I'm gonna dig through what I got and see what I have in terms of like extra fetch lands and stuff like that. But all the value is here. There's nothing in the deck that has like any value. I don't think there's a single card in the deck that's like worth more than $10. And Birds of Paradise at $8.49, like you can get a Birds of Paradise for like $3 or $4. So whatever. But no, here it is. Here's the deck. Gonna build it, and then we'll have 5, and I'll let people know how it goes. I'll keep people informed. So there'll be updates here. There'll be updates on Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. So, but here it is. We got it. We got a 5th deck to go with. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you're excited for Oathbreaker at all. If you have like any inkling to like abandon EDH, even if it's just for a temporary moment, and come play Oathbreaker. As I always say, if you want to play, let me know, because I am always down to play. So, all right. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye.